Welcome back to 2 Minutes to Compliance. I think this may be number 4 or 5 in the list that we've done so far. And today I want to cover mutual recognition or free movement rules in Europe. Now, typically this is thought of by food businesses a product that's lawfully for sale in one member state. It should be easy to move that product into lots of other different member states. But nothing could really be further from the truth. It is a very complex and nuanced area. And for example, this is just a small selection of text that cover free movement of goods in the European Union. Now, to cover that in 2 minutes is probably a bit ambitious, but I want to provide at least a little bit of overview about how you can apply this concept to the free movement of your products on the European market and the best way to look at regulations to do that. Okay, so now let's move on to our 2-minute timer. Okay, we're going to have a go at squeezing this into 2 minutes. I've got to say this is my 5th go at doing it in 2 minutes, and I keep needing to chop bits out. It's such a complex topic to cover in that amount of time, but we should have a go for the last time. So let's start our 2-minute timer. Okay, the basis of this issue called mutual recognition, which is where a product that's lawfully for sale in one member state should be lawfully for sale in another, evolves from the Articles 34 and 36 within the treaty. And you can look at this online, but basically it means that some types of restrictions can be justified if they're on things like safety ground. And this always relates to non-harmonized products. So remember, free movement rules are on non-harmonized issues. So things like botanicals, we don't have a regulation that governs what parts of botanicals, the types, the dose that applies to all different member states. Now, within this codified version of free movement rules, the mutual recognition regulation has at the back of it a form that you can fill in. You can put a description about your goods, any scientific safety data, or other information you need to have. You would send this then to the member state that wants you to provide that before you place a product on the market. So, for example, a fortified food, and they would go away, they would assess that is an admissibility test, and then they'll give you what is called then a technical notification as regards whether they approve or reject it being placed on the market. And it should be, obviously, if they're rejected, it needs to be justified. It needs to be proportionate. Now, the problem with this is time. So until they provide that final notification, there's nothing you can do. They can prohibit you placing that product on the market. And if you use, for example, Denmark, there can be restrictions up to 6 months while these dossiers are assessed. And it can be almost, £1,300, over €1,000 to have this assessment carried out. So my suggestion is contact a product contact point. So you can look for this on the Europa website, ask what restrictions are in place for that individual member state, and then you'll be better informed to know how far out your product is with lining up with what member state laws are in place. And if you match them, it's great. And if not, then consider obviously what time frame that you really do need to agree with to place it on the market. So that was 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and I barely scratched the surface of this one. So I probably bit off a little bit too much than I can chew here. But what I would say is that the mutual recognition regulation, so again, 2019 to 515 is the number for the regulation. It is useful because it puts in place a number of specific time points. So when you provide that request to a product contact point, which is a representative of that individual member state, to request information about any restrictions that could apply to your product, they have to do that within 15 working days. So that gives you an initial time frame to find out, okay, well, what restrictions might be in place. And then after that, if you think you can overcome those restrictions through science, through a legal argument, then you can submit your mutual recognition form to that member state. But still bear in mind, before you then can go and complain to the European Commission. And again, this procedure is outlined in the regulation. It will take time, and it can take up to 6 months. So just be cautious of that. Okay, I hope this is useful, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next 2 minutes to compliance.